The scorching Lagos sun beat down mercilessly on the gleaming white gates of the Okonkwo mansion in Victoria Island. Inside, a scene of unspeakable cruelty was unfolding. "Please, Chioma, I beg you in the name of God." Mama Noma's trembling voice echoed through the marble hallway. Her frail hands gripped the wheels of her chair, knuckles white with desperation. Chioma stood above her, designer sunglasses perched on her head, her freshly manicured nails gleaming blood-red in the afternoon light. Her face was a mask of cold indifference. "Your son is dead, old woman."
Dead.
"And I am not running a charity home." But Emeka would never. "Emeka is gone." Chioma's voice cracked like a whip. "And this is my house now. Everything here belongs to me." Mama Noma's eyes filled with tears. Just 3 days ago, she had buried her only son. 3 days since she'd watched Emeka's casket lowered into the red earth at Ikoyi Cemetery. And now, the woman who had smiled beside her at the funeral, accepting condolences and playing the grieving widow, was showing her true face. "Security." Chioma snapped her fingers. "Get her out. Now." 2 burly men in black uniforms appeared, their faces uncomfortable but obedient. One of them, Bello, had worked for the family for 7 years. He had watched Mama Noma teach little children their prayers, had eaten her jollof rice at family gatherings. Now he stood frozen, unable to meet her eyes. "Madam Chioma, maybe we can," Bello began. "Did I ask for your opinion?" Chioma cut him off, her voice like ice. "Take her to the gate.
Put her on the street.
If she's still here in 5 minutes, you're both fired." Mama Noma tried to will herself backward, but her paralyzed legs made her weak, and her stroke-affected left arm could barely help. "Chioma, where will I go? I have nowhere, no one." "That's not my problem anymore." Chioma pulled out her phone, already scrolling through Instagram, dismissing the woman who had raised the man she'd married. "You have family in the village, don't you? Go find them. You know I cannot travel alone like this. I cannot even." "Take her out," Chioma screamed, her composure finally cracking. The security men moved forward. Bella whispered, "Sorry, Ma," as he pushed Mama Noma's wheelchair toward the door. The old woman's sobs echoed through the mansion, the same mansion she had helped build, where she'd lived for 12 years, where she'd cared for her son until his last breath. At the gate, they found a small bag with some of Mama Noma's clothes already packed and waiting. Chioma had planned this. "Please," Mama Noma clutched Bello's arm. "Just let me take my son's picture, the one on the parlor wall." Bello's eyes darted to the house, then back to her.
"I'm sorry, Mama.
"I cannot lose this job. I have children." The gates swung open. The busy street of Victoria Island stretched before them, expensive cars zooming past, hawkers calling their wares, the chaos of Lagos in full motion. They wheeled her to the bus stop across the street and left her there. Mama Noma sat in her wheelchair, clutching her small bag, watching the gates of her home, close forever. Passers-by stared. Some whispered. No one stopped. Inside the mansion, Chioma poured herself a glass of champagne and smiled. Finally, she was free. Free from the burden of caring for a disabled old woman. Free to enjoy Emeka's wealth without anyone to answer to. She had no idea that in exactly 3 weeks, those same gates would open again, but not for the reason she thought. The story of what happened next would shock all of Lagos. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you have done if this happened to you? Let's dive in. 3 weeks earlier, the rain fell in heavy sheets over Ikoyi Cemetery, as if the heavens themselves mourned Emeka Okonkwo. Under a massive white canopy, hundreds of mourners dressed in black gathered around the mahogany casket, their faces masks of grief and disbelief. Emeka had been only 42 years old, successful, beloved, the CEO of Okonkwo Imports and Exports, a business empire that stretched across West Africa. And now he was gone, killed in a car accident on 3rd Mainland Bridge just 5 days ago. Chioma stood at the graveside, Draped in the finest black lace money could buy, her face hidden behind a designer veil. She swayed dramatically, supported by her friends Ada and Ngozi, who fanned her with elaborate hand fans despite the cool rain. Her wails pierced the air at perfectly timed intervals. "My husband, my Emeka, what will I do without you?" she cried, collapsing against Ada's shoulder. Behind her, Mama Noma sat silently in her wheelchair, her face carved from stone. No tears fell from her eyes. She had cried them all out in private, in her room, where no one could see. The stroke she'd suffered 2 years ago had left half her body paralyzed, but her mind remained sharp. Sharp enough to notice things others missed. Like how Chioma's tears never quite reached her eyes. Like how her daughter-in-law's phone had buzzed incessantly during the wake, and she'd smiled each time before catching herself. Like how Chioma had insisted on a quick burial, overriding Mama Neoma's wish to wait for relatives traveling from the east. "Mama, do you need anything?" Emeka's cousin, Obi, bent down beside the wheelchair, concern etched on his face. Mama Neoma shook her head slowly. "I just want to bury my son," she whispered, her voice heavy with grief. The pastor's voice boomed across the cemetery, reciting Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." As the casket was lowered into the earth, Chioma's wails reached a crescendo. She threw herself forward, and it took 3 people to hold her back from the grave. The performance was worthy of Nollywood. Mama Neoma watched her daughter-in-law's theatrics with growing unease. Something was wrong. She had felt it in her bones since the day Emeka died. The police had called it an accident, brake failure on the rain-slicked bridge. But Emeka had just serviced that car. He was meticulous about such things. After the burial, the procession moved to the Okonkwo mansion for the reception. The sprawling estate in Victoria Island had been transformed into a venue befitting a king's funeral. White roses everywhere. A live band playing somber hymns. Tables laden with enough food to feed half of Lagos. Mama Neoma was wheeled to a corner of the massive living room, beside the portrait of Emeka in his youth, smiling, vibrant, alive. She stared at her son's face, her heart breaking anew. "Mama, please eat something." One of the house girls, Blessing, offered her a plate of jollof rice. "I'm not hungry, my daughter." Throughout the evening, Mama Neoma observed. She watched Chioma move through the crowd, accepting condolences with graceful sorrow, playing her role perfectly. She watched her whisper into her phone in corners, thinking no one noticed. She watched her laugh, actually laugh, when she thought she was out of earshot, talking to someone named Kay. As night fell and guests began to leave, Chioma's mask started to slip. She barked orders at the staff with increasing irritation. She avoided eye contact with Mama Neoma entirely. And when Obi approached her to discuss Emeka's business affairs and the will, she cut him off sharply. "We'll discuss all of that later. I'm grieving, can't you see?" But Mama Neoma could see something else in her daughter-in-law's eyes. Not grief. Not sorrow. Relief. That night, alone in her room, Mama Neoma prayed. She prayed for her son's soul. She prayed for strength. And she prayed for truth, because somewhere deep in her mother's heart, she knew that Emeka's death was no accident. In the master bedroom down the hall, Chioma stood before the mirror, removing her black lace. She smiled at her reflection, a real smile this time, full of satisfaction. The old woman would be a problem, yes, but not for long. She had plans. Everything was falling into place. 3 days later, those plans would come to fruition on the front steps of the mansion, witnessed by shocked neighbors and horrified staff. 3 days until Mama Neoma would find herself abandoned on the streets of Lagos, wondering how her life had come to this. But destiny had its own plans. And in 3 weeks' time, the tables would turn in ways no one could imagine. The game had only just begun. The morning after the cold open, Mama Neoma sat in her wheelchair under Eco Bridge, her entire world reduced to a few feet of concrete and despair. The Lagos traffic roared above her. Danfo buses honking, Okadas weaving through traffic, the constant pulse of a city that never stopped. Below, In the shadows of the bridge was another Lagos entirely. The Lagos of the forgotten. Mama, you want pure water? A young boy, no more than 12, appeared before her. His clothes were tattered, his feet bare, but his eyes held kindness. Mama Neoma's throat was parched from crying, but she had no money. I have nothing to give you, my son. The boy pressed the cold sachet of water into her hand anyway. God go bless you, Mama. I see you yesterday when them bring you. This Lagos no be friendly place but we day here. As he ran off to sell his wares, tears rolled down Mama Neoma's cheeks. A street child had shown her more compassion than her own daughter-in-law. The past 24 hours had been a nightmare. After being dumped at the bus stop, she'd sat there for hours as darkness fell, hoping someone from the house would come back. That Chioma would change her mind. That this was all a terrible mistake. No one came. Eventually, an Okada rider named Sonni had taken pity on her. Mama, you cannot sleep for this bus stop. Area boys go come night time. I go carry you go under bridge where other people day. And so she'd found herself here, among Lagos's invisible population, the homeless, the mentally ill, the abandoned. Her neighbors now were people society had discarded, just as she had been discarded. Meanwhile, across the city in Victoria Island, Chioma was having the time of her life. Girl, this drink's sweet-o. Her friend Ngozi raised a glass of champagne in the mansion's newly redecorated living room. Chioma had wasted no time erasing every trace of Mama Neoma. The old woman's room had already been converted into a walk-in closet. I'm telling you, Ngozi, I feel like I can finally breathe. Chioma scrolled through her phone, admiring the photos from yesterday's shopping spree at Palms Mall. That old woman was sucking the life out of me. Always judging, always watching with those beady eyes. But Chioma, she's your husband's mother-in-law. What if people talk? Chioma waved her hand dismissively. Let them talk. What can they do? Everything is in my name now. The house, the cars, the business accounts. Emeka made sure of that. What Chioma didn't know was that everything wasn't quite everything. Back under Eco Bridge, Mama Neoma had fallen into an exhausted sleep when a voice woke her. Madam? Madam, please wake up. She opened her eyes to see a young man in a sharp suit crouching beside her wheelchair. He looked impossibly out of place in this grimy underworld, his clothes too clean, his shoes too polished, his face too concerned. My name is Colonel Adewale, he said gently. I'm a lawyer. My office is just there in Ikeja. I've been watching you for 2 days now, and forgive me for being forward, but you don't belong here. Mama Neoma laughed bitterly. Where do I belong, my son? I have nowhere. I don't believe that. Colonel pulled out a bottle of water and a meat pie from a paper bag. Please eat first. Then tell me your story. Something in his voice reminded her of Emeka. That same genuine warmth, that same stubborn kindness that wouldn't take no for an answer. And so, as she ate her first real meal in 2 days, Mama Neoma told him everything. She told him about Emeka, about the mansion in Victoria Island, about Chioma's cruelty. She told him about her suspicions regarding her son's death, about the phone calls, about the relief in Chioma's eyes. Colonel listened intently, his lawyer's mind already working. Madam Neoma, did your son leave a will? I don't know. Chioma said everything was settled, that she'd handle it. And you believed her? Mama Neoma looked down at her paralyzed legs, at her withered hands. What choice did I have? Colonel pulled out his business card. I want to help you, but I need time to investigate. Can you hold on a little longer? I've held on this long, haven't I? As Colonel walked back to his office, his mind raced. Something about this case felt wrong. Very wrong. Emeka Okonkwo had been a prominent businessman. There would be records, documents, paper trails. And if his suspicions were correct, Chioma had made a fatal mistake. She'd assumed no one would care about one paralyzed old woman. But someone cared, and he was going to make sure justice was served. That evening, as Mama Neoma settled into another night under the bridge, Chioma posted a selfie on Instagram. New beginnings, gemstones, sparkles, hashtag blessed and grateful, hashtag living my best life. The photo showed her draped in gold jewelry, champagne glass raised, the Lagos skyline glittering behind her through the mansion's floor-to-ceiling windows. She had 847 likes within an hour. She had no idea that her perfect new life was built on sand, and the tide was about to come in. 3 weeks had passed since Mama Noma's expulsion. Chioma's transformation was complete. The mourning widow had vanished, replaced by a social media sensation. Her Instagram following had tripled as she documented her grief journey, which apparently involved luxury spa days, shopping sprees at Gucci and Louis Vuitton on Admiralty Way, and champagne brunches at the finest hotels in Lagos. Healing looks different for everyone. 2 hearts, hashtag self-care, hashtag strong woman. Read the caption under a photo of her getting a massage at the Wee Baker Hotel. Today, she sat in the VIP section of Quillock's nightclub, surrounded by admirers. The music pounded, bottles of expensive champagne lined her table, and a man named Kazim, K from her secret phone calls, sat close beside her, his hand possessively on her knee. Kazim was everything Emeka hadn't been. Dangerous, exciting, unpredictable. A luxury car dealer with questionable connections and expensive taste. They'd been seeing each other for 8 months before Emeka died. Now they no longer had to hide. "Baby, when are we going to make this official?" Kazim whispered in her ear, his cologne overwhelming. "I'm tired of being your secret." "Soon, Kay. I need to wait a respectable amount of time. You know how these Lagos people like to gossip." She traced her finger along his jaw. "Besides, I'm enjoying my freedom." What Chioma didn't notice was Obi, Emeka's cousin, sitting in a dark corner of the club with his friend. He'd been suspicious of Chioma from the beginning, and now he was gathering evidence. His phone camera captured every intimate moment between her and Kazim. Across Lagos, under Eco Bridge, Mama Noma's situation had stabilized slightly. Kunal visited her daily, bringing food and asking questions. He'd become more than just a lawyer. He'd become her lifeline. "Mama, I found something interesting today," Kunal said, sitting on an overturned crate beside her wheelchair. Around them, the evening market at Balagan was coming alive, traders packing up, customers haggling for last-minute deals. "What did you find?" Emeka visited a lawyer's office 2 weeks before he died. A lawyer named Barrister Okafor in Ikoyi. Kunal's eyes gleamed. "And according to my sources, he changed his will." Mama Noma's heart skipped. "Changed it?" "The problem is, Barrister Okafor died 3 months ago. Heart attack. His office was closed, and his files are in storage somewhere. But if Emeka really did change his will?" Kunal leaned forward. "Then everything Chioma claims to own might not legally be hers." "But why would Emeka change his will?" Kunal hesitated. "Mama, I have to ask you something difficult. Did you ever suspect that Chioma was unfaithful to your son?" The old woman's eyes closed. "I saw things, heard things, but Emeka loved her so much. I couldn't break his heart with suspicions. I think Emeka found out on his own." Kunal showed her his phone, screenshots from a private investigator he'd hired. These photos were taken a month before Emeka died. "Your daughter-in-law and this man, Kazim Williams, together at hotels, restaurants, holding hands." Mama Noma's hands trembled. She was cheating on him. "I believe Emeka discovered the affair and changed his will to protect his assets and protect you. But then..." Kunal's voice dropped. "Mama, I don't think Emeka's death was an accident." The words hung in the humid Lagos air. Around them, life continued, hawkers shouting, generators humming, the eternal chaos of the city. But in that moment, everything stopped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that the mechanic who serviced Emeka's car has disappeared." The police report was filed suspiciously quickly. "And brake failures on luxury vehicles that were just serviced? It's extremely rare." Kunal pulled out more documents. "I contacted the original investigating officer. He said the case was closed on orders from above. Someone with influence paid to make this go away fast." Mama Noma felt rage building in her chest, a rage that burned away her helplessness, her grief, her despair. She killed my son. I can't prove it yet, but with enough time. Connell's jaw set with determination. I'm going to find that will, Mama. And when I do, I'm going to make sure Chioma Okonkwo pays for everything she's done. That same night, while Mama Noma dreamed of justice, Chioma lay in her king-sized bed, scrolling through real estate listings. The mansion was nice, but she wanted something bigger. Something on Banana Island, maybe. A real statement of wealth. Kazim snored beside her, and she wrinkled her nose. He was useful but getting clingy. Once everything was truly settled, she might need to reevaluate that relationship too. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I know what you did. Chioma's blood ran cold. Her fingers trembled as she typed back. Who is this? No response. She told herself it was a prank, some jealous person trying to scare her. But as she lay in the darkness, listening to Kazim snore and the Lagos night sounds outside, unease crept up her spine. Somewhere in this vast city, someone was watching. Someone new. And her perfect new life was about to come crashing down. Connell's office in Acadia was modest but organized. Law books lined the walls, files stacked neatly on his desk. He'd only returned from his studies in London 6 months ago, taking over his late father's small practice. This case with Mama Noma had become his obsession. Femi, tell me you found something, Connell said into his phone, pacing behind his desk. On the other end, his friend Femi, who worked in the Lagos Land Registry, spoke in hushed tones. Guy, this case is deeper than we thought. I found the storage unit where Barrister Okafor's files were kept. His son finally sorted through everything, and bro, there's a will. Dated 2 weeks before Emeka died. Connell's heart raced. And everything goes to Mama Noma. The house, the business, the investments, everything. Chioma only gets a monthly allowance of 500,000 naira, and even that ends if she remarries within 2 years of his death. Jesus Christ. Wait, there's more. Femi's voice dropped even lower. There's a letter attached. Emeka wrote that he discovered his wife's affair and her plan to Guy. You need to sit down for this. Her plan to poison Mama Noma to get her inheritance after he was gone. Connell felt his blood turn to ice. He knew she wanted to kill his mother? According to this letter, he overheard her and that Kazim guy planning it. He was gathering evidence to file for divorce, but he wanted to protect his mother first. The will was his insurance policy. But the will was never executed. Chioma doesn't know it exists.
Exactly.
And get this, I did some digging into Emeka's accident. You know my cousin works at the police headquarters? He pulled the file for me. The investigating officer noted something suspicious. Emeka's brake lines looked like they'd been deliberately cut, not worn. But someone, and I'm talking high-level someone, ordered the case closed. Ruled as accidental. Connell sat down heavily in his chair. Kazim has connections. He's been arrested twice for fraud, but never prosecuted. Money talks in this Lagos. So, what's your move? I need that will. Can you get me a certified copy? I'll have it tomorrow. But Connell, be careful. If Chioma killed once. After hanging up, Connell grabbed his car keys. He needed to tell Mama Noma immediately. But as he locked his office and headed to his car, he noticed a black Lexus with tinted windows parked across the street. It had been there for 3 days. Someone was watching him too. Under Eco Bridge, Mama Noma had developed a routine. The street community had adopted her. Sani the Okada rider brought her breakfast, the fruit seller Aya Rizakat shared lunch, and young boys like Tund ran errands for her. She'd become the bridge's grandmother, dispensing wisdom and prayers to those even more desperate than herself. Mama, lawyer man day come, Tund shouted, running ahead of Connell's approaching figure. One look at Connell's face told her everything. You found something. He knelt beside her wheelchair, mindless of the dirt on his expensive suit. I found the will, Mama. Everything, the house, the business, everything, it all belongs to you. Emeka left Chioma almost nothing. Mama Noma closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. My son, my beautiful son. There's more. Gently, carefully, Connell told her about the letter, about Emeka's knowledge of Chioma's plans, about the murder. By the time he finished, Mama Neoma's tears had dried. In their place was something harder, colder. Steel. What do we do now? We go to court. We present the will. And we make sure the police reopen the murder investigation. Connell's eyes burned with righteous fury.
But I need you to be strong, Mama.
This will get ugly. Chioma will fight. She might even try to. Let her try. Mama Neoma's voice was quiet but lethal. My son is dead because of her greed. She threw me away like garbage.
Now.
Her eyes lifted to meet Connell's. Now we show her that even the weakest can find justice, even from under a bridge. While they spoke across Lagos in the mansion, Chioma was having a very different conversation. What do you mean someone's been asking questions? She hissed into her phone, standing in Emeka's old study. Kazim's voice came through tense. My contact at the police station called. Some young lawyer has been digging into Emeka's accident, requesting files, talking to witnesses. What lawyer? I don't know yet. But baby, if they won't find anything. Chioma's mind raced. We were careful. The mechanic is gone. The police report is closed. What about the will? Did you check if everything is in my name? I watched Emeka's lawyer file the documents myself. But doubt crept in. Had she actually seen the will? Or had she just assumed? In the chaos after Emeka's death, she'd moved so fast, so confident. Kay, I need you to find out who this lawyer is. And I need you to make him stop asking questions. Do you understand? Silence. Kay, do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. But Chioma, if this goes bad. It won't. She hung up, but her hands were shaking. The anonymous messages had continued. Every day a new one. Justice is coming. The truth will out. What goes around comes around. She tried to trace them, but they came from different numbers, untraceable. Someone was playing games with her. Chioma walked to the window, looking out at the Lagos skyline. Somewhere in that sprawling city of 20 million souls, someone was coming for her. She could feel it. She just didn't know that the person coming for her was the same paralyzed old woman she'd thrown away like trash. The same woman she'd underestimated completely. The next morning, Connell filed a petition in Lagos High Court to probate Emeka Okonkwo's true last will and testament. The document was a bombshell, and within hours, news spread through Lagos's elite circles like wildfire. Chioma's phone exploded with calls. Her perfect life was unraveling, and the worst was yet to come. The Lagos High Court was packed. Word of the Okonkwo case had spread through the city like wildfire. Society widow accused of murder, secret wills, disabled mother-in-law rising from the streets. It was pure Nollywood drama, except this was real. Chioma sat at the defendant's table, her designer outfit immaculate but her face drawn. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Beside her, her expensive lawyer, Chief Babalola, whispered urgently in her ear. Behind them, Kazim was notably absent. He'd disappeared the moment the murder investigation was reopened. On the other side, Connell stood beside Mama Neoma's wheelchair. The old woman had been cleaned up, dressed in modest but dignified clothes donated by a church group. But it was her eyes that drew attention, sharp, unwavering, fixed on her daughter-in-law with laser focus. All rise. The bailiff's voice rang out. The Honorable Justice Okonkwo presiding. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, settled into her seat. This is a petition to probate a will, but I understand there are criminal matters intertwined. Counsel, let's proceed efficiently. Connell stood. Your Honor, I represent Mrs. Neoma Okonkwo, mother of the deceased Emeka Okonkwo. We present the true last will and testament of the deceased, dated 2 weeks before his death, which leaves his entire estate to his mother, with only a monthly allowance for his wife. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Chief Babalola jumped up. Your Honor, this is preposterous. My client was married to the deceased. She is the legal widow and has been managing the estate for weeks. This so-called will is clearly a forgery. It's authenticated, Your Honor. Connell handed documents to the judge. Signed by the deceased in the presence of 2 witnesses, notarized by the late barrister Okafor. We have the witnesses here today to testify. What happened next would be replayed on Lagos news channels for weeks. The first witness, Barrister Okafor's former secretary, testified that Emeka had come to the office in distress, insisting on changing his will immediately. He said he discovered something terrible about his wife, she stated. He said he needed to protect his mother. The second witness, Emeka's business partner Mr. Adebayo, delivered the crushing blow. Emeka called me 2 days before he died. He said if anything happened to him, it wasn't an accident. He said, and I quote, "If I die suddenly, Chioma did it." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel repeatedly. Order. Order in this court. But Connell wasn't finished. Your Honor, we also present evidence regarding the suspicious circumstances of Emeka Okonkwo's death. He pulled out a flash drive. This contains CCTV footage from the deceased's estate, recovered from the security system's backup server. The judge ordered the video played. The courtroom fell silent as the large screen flickered to life. There, in grainy but unmistakable footage, was Chioma in the garage at 2 a.m., 3 days before Emeka's death. The timestamp was clear. She looked around nervously, then approached Emeka's car. The footage showed her bending down near the front wheel, working at something for several minutes. When she stood up, her hands were dirty, and she quickly wiped them on a rag before hurrying back inside. That's circumstantial, Chief Babalola shouted. You can't prove. We also have the mechanic, Your Honor. Connell nodded to the bailiff. The man who shuffled and was thin, terrified, but alive. My name is Ibrahim Muhammad. I was paid 5 million naira by that woman and a man named Kazim to cut Mr. Emeka's brake lines. They told me to make it look like an accident. After the crash, they paid me another 5 million and told me to disappear or they'd kill me. Ibrahim pointed directly at Chioma. That woman is a murderer. The courtroom exploded into chaos. Chioma's face had gone white as bone. She tried to stand, to run, but police officers moved to block the exits. No, this is lies. All lies. Chioma screamed. That old woman put them up to this. She hated me from the beginning. Mrs. Okonkwo. The judge's voice cut through the noise like a blade. You will sit down and be silent, or I will hold you in contempt. But Chioma was beyond reason. Tears and mascara streamed down her face as she pointed at Mama Noma. You should have just died under that bridge. Emeka never loved you anyway. He told me you were a burden. Mama Neoma's voice rang out, clear and strong despite her frail body. My son loved me until his last breath.
But you?
You killed the only person who truly loved you. For what?
Money?
That man Kazim, who abandoned you the moment trouble came? The truth of those words hit Chioma like a physical blow. She collapsed into her chair, sobbing. The judge conferred quietly with the prosecutor. Then she spoke. Based on the evidence presented, I am ruling in favor of the petitioner. The will is valid. The entire Okonkwo estate belongs to Mrs. Neoma Okonkwo. Furthermore, I am ordering Mrs. Chioma Okonkwo arrested immediately on suspicion of murder. The police investigation is officially reopened. As police moved forward with handcuffs, Chioma's eyes met Mama Neoma's one last time. In the old woman's gaze, she saw no triumph, no joy. Only infinite sadness. I forgive you, Mama Neoma said quietly. But the law will not. 6 months later, the Emeka Okonkwo Memorial Shelter stood in Surulere, a beautiful modern building with wheelchair ramps and accessible facilities. The sign outside read, "A home for abandoned elders. No one gets left behind." Mama Neoma, looking healthier now with proper medical care and physical therapy, sat in her wheelchair at the entrance, greeting each new resident personally. Some came from under Eco Bridge, others from far worse situations. All found welcome here. Connell stood beside her, now the shelter's legal advisor and Mama Neoma's adopted son in spirit, if not in law. We have space for 50 more residents, Mama. and the government has agreed to help fund expansions. Emeka would be proud, she said softly, looking at her son's portrait hanging in the reception hall. Inside Kirikiri Maximum Prison, Chioma sat in her cell, watching a small TV. The news showed the shelter's grand opening, showed Mama Noma surrounded by grateful elderly people, showed the transformation of tragedy into hope. Chioma's trial had been swift. The evidence was overwhelming. She'd been sentenced to life imprisonment for murder. Kazim had been caught trying to flee to Ghana and was serving 20 years as an accomplice. As she watched Mama Noma smile on the TV screen, Chioma finally understood what she'd destroyed. Not just a life, but a legacy. Not just a family, but her own soul. She'd kicked a disabled woman into the streets, thinking power and money made her untouchable. She'd forgotten that in Lagos, in Nigeria, in life itself, what goes around always comes around. Justice might be slow, but it never sleeps. And karma? Karma never forgets. As the news segment ended, Chioma turned off the TV and lay on her narrow prison bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. It was Sunday. She closed her eyes and, for the first time in her life, truly prayed for forgiveness.